I got a video response from the subject of one of my stitches, and that doesn't happen too often, so let's see what they had to say.
Prop 36 got $110 million in funding. Now, was it everything they were hoping for? No. But it got $110 million in funding. You make it sound like it was zero, and that's disingenuous.
The $110 million was a one-time state budget allocation. And remember, $250 million was the low end of the estimate of what Prop 36 was going to cost. Gavin Newsom says that $250 million is too much for the budget to pay for Prop 36, but is willing to spend $250 million on an election just to power grab. That is the context, and that is the distinction in my video that I make that you did not make clear, and that is being disingenuous.
I'm so glad that you brought up context. Let's get into that a little bit. Now, in my video, when I said that you made it seem like there was no funding for Prop 36, I was being generous to you because I have context that none of my viewers were going to have before watching my video. But let's give them some context. Now, you claim that you were making a distinction that I failed to recognize. I would argue that that distinction was thinly veiled at best. But the context which informed my word choice is your history with perpetuating a false narrative around the funding for Prop 36.
So, Gavin Newsom, the leader of the Democrats of protecting democracy, is not funding a referendum that was passed by every single county in the state of California.
Is not funding. Those were your words.
And despite that, Governor Newsom decided that it wasn't important enough to be in the July 1st budget. He is not funding it.
Was not important enough to be in the July 1st budget. He is not funding it. Now, when I first saw that video, I was very confused because I know that there is funding for Prop 36 in the July 1st budget. But I also know that early drafts of the budget did not have funding for Prop 36. So I thought, that must be it. He must have posted that video before the final draft was signed into law. No. You posted that video August 10th. Gavin Newsom signed the budget into law on June 27th. So now that we all have the same context, you'll know why I was calling you disingenuous. And why that regardless of whatever distinction you think you were making in this most recent video, it doesn't matter, because you are looking for justification to perpetuate the false narrative that there is no funding for Prop 36. Anyway, I'm glad in your response video you've admitted that there is $110 million there.
Your claim of 40% of California voters being disenfranchised as a result of the redrawing of our maps is wrong. I'm assuming you're referring to Republican voters in the state of California, seeing as how the redrawing of the maps will artificially favor Democratic voters. The problem is your number. Republicans do not make up 40% of registered voters in California.
I didn't say anything about registration numbers because registration numbers do not make an election. The president or any elected leader does not come into office based on who registers for the party. It doesn't matter if there's a 3-to-1 Democrat-Republican ratio in registration numbers. If more people vote for the Republican wins. My number is based on voters. In the 2024 presidential election, 40%, almost 38%, of voters in California voted red. This redistricting is going to disenfranchise 38% of the voters in California. That's specifically what I said. I didn't say registered voters. I said voters, period.
Yes, I know what you said, and that's why I said it was wrong. You said 38, almost 40% of voters in California voted red. No, that number is referring to votes for Donald Trump only. And this is that great teaching moment that I thanked you for in the comments earlier. But the thing that you and every other right-wing MAGA influencer on social media are either not understanding or purposely misleading to make your argument sound better is that redistricting, gerrymandering, whatever you want to call it, has zero impact on presidential elections, has zero impact on Senate elections. The only elections that redistricting affects are elections for the U.S. House of Representatives and for your state legislature, right? Depending on which state you live in and if maps are redrawn at the same time, it can vary. But that's it. And that's why I said that 40% number was wrong. You cannot, in good faith, use that metric when trying to illustrate the possible ramifications of redistricting. Those two things do not affect each other. Where the congressional lines on any given state are drawn bears zero impact on which citizen will vote for which presidential candidate. The two are not related.